Max Verstappen has just delivered the warning Red Bull feared most, and it could turn Spa into a breaking point. Reports claim Verstappen is demanding $100 million per year to extend his contract, while separate speculation suggests Mercedes has already rejected the terms linked to a possible move. But this is not really about money. It is about whether Verstappen still trusts Red Bull to give him a championship-winning car, stable leadership, and a future worth committing to. Spa now becomes the ultimate test. One strong weekend could restore belief. One more failure could transform contract pressure into an exit countdown. And the most dangerous part for Red Bull is not what Verstappen has already demanded. It is what he may do if the team cannot prove, right now, that staying is still his best option. The real danger for Red Bull begins when the contract number stops being the main story. $100 million per year sounds enormous. It sounds like the kind of demand that could decide everything by itself. But for Verstappen, money may only be the surface. The deeper issue is whether Red Bull can still match the level of ambition he brings every time he enters the car. Because a driver at this level is not only asking how much he will earn. He is asking what he is being asked to believe. Does he believe the team can build another championship-winning car? Does he believe the leadership around him is stable? Does he believe the technical direction is strong enough? And does he believe staying with Red Bull gives him a better future than leaving? That is where Spa becomes much more than another race. It becomes evidence. The supplied information points to reports of a huge financial demand, speculation that Mercedes rejected the conditions connected to a possible move, and claims that Verstappen may need to leave Red Bull if he wants to achieve more in Formula One. None of that confirms an exit. None of it proves the reported contract figure is accurate. But the pressure created by those stories is real. Every difficult weekend now carries more meaning. A slow practice session is no longer just a slow practice session. A weak qualifying result is no longer only a missed opportunity. A strategic mistake is no longer something that disappears by Monday morning. Each problem becomes another reason to question the future. And that is what places Red Bull in such a dangerous position. The team is not only trying to produce performance. It is trying to protect belief. Belief is difficult to build, and incredibly easy to damage. Red Bull can promise Verstappen that upgrades are coming. It can promise that the technical direction is improving. It can promise that the problems are understood. But when the car leaves the garage, those promises have to survive reality. Verstappen will feel the answer before anyone else. He will feel it under braking. He will feel it when the front of the car turns. He will feel it when the rear begins moving. He will feel it when the tires start losing performance. And he will know whether the lap time came naturally, or whether he had to drag it out of the car. That difference matters. A competitive lap can hide a serious problem. The timing screen only shows the result. It does not show how much risk the driver accepted. It does not show how many corrections were needed. It does not show how close the car came to losing control. And it does not show whether that performance can be repeated. Verstappen knows all of that. He knows when the car is genuinely competitive. He also knows when his own ability is making the situation look better than it really is. That may be the most uncomfortable part of Red Bull's problem. An exceptional driver can protect a team from criticism. He can turn a difficult car into a respectable result. He can produce one lap that changes the entire conversation. He can attack when another driver would manage. But over time, that creates a dangerous illusion. The team sees points. The public sees a strong finish. The real weakness remains underneath. And eventually, the driver begins wondering how long he should continue covering it. That is when frustration becomes more serious. Not loud frustration. Not one angry radio message. Something colder. A driver begins asking harder questions. Why does the same weakness keep returning? Why is the car still difficult to understand? Why are rivals improving faster? Why should he commit more years when the direction remains uncertain? Those questions cannot be solved by salary alone. Red Bull could meet every financial demand and still lose the argument. Because money can reward the past. It cannot guarantee the future. And Verstappen's future will be decided by confidence. Confidence in the car. Confidence in the engineers. Confidence in the leadership. Confidence that Red Bull is still capable of responding when the pressure becomes overwhelming. That is why Spa carries so much weight. The circuit will test the car in almost every possible way. High-speed stability. Straight-line performance. Braking confidence. Tire control. Setup flexibility. And the team's ability to react when conditions change. A strong car at Spa has to do more than one thing well. It has to connect several strengths across a very long lap. If Red Bull arrives with a machine that feels unpredictable, the problem will be exposed quickly. Verstappen may be able to hide one weakness through one corner. He cannot hide several weaknesses across the entire circuit. And if he spends the weekend fighting the car again, the contract rumors will become louder. Not because one race decides everything. Because one race can confirm a pattern. Patterns are what drivers trust. A single strong result can be luck. A sequence of strong weekends shows direction. A single bad weekend can happen to anyone. Repeated problems suggest something deeper. That is what Verstappen will be judging. Not whether Red Bull can produce one dramatic moment. Whether it can create momentum. Momentum means the upgrades work for clear reasons. The engineers understand the result. The setup improves from one session to the next. The driver feels more confident. And the team can carry that progress to another circuit. Without momentum, every improvement feels temporary. And temporary performance is not enough when a driver is deciding the next stage of his career. This is where Mercedes enters the story. The supplied information suggests Mercedes may have rejected the demands linked to a possible move. That sounds reassuring for Red Bull. It may not be. One rejected possibility does not remove Verstappen's leverage. It only changes the shape of the negotiation. Mercedes may have rejected the financial number. The timing may have been wrong. The conditions may have been too complicated. Or the report may not include the full private situation. What matters is that another future is being discussed at all. The moment a credible alternative exists, Red Bull loses certainty. Verstappen does not need 10 teams chasing him. He needs one serious project. One team with a convincing plan. One car with championship potential. One leadership group capable of making him believe that the next chapter could be stronger than the current one. That is enough to create pressure. And pressure changes behavior inside a Formula One team. Engineers feel the urgency. Leadership becomes more careful with every public statement. Contract talks become connected to race results. Every upgrade carries emotional weight. Every failure becomes political. That can make a team move faster. It can also make a team panic. And panic is the last thing Red Bull needs. A rushed upgrade can create more confusion. One change improves the front. Another damages the rear. The setup window becomes narrower. The engineers lose time trying to understand why the simulation and the circuit do not agree. Then Verstappen is forced to compensate again. That would not only hurt the result, it would damage confidence in the process. This is why Red Bull needs controlled urgency. The team must react quickly, but not desperately. It must show Verstappen that it understands the problems, without pretending every solution is simple. It must prove that the technical direction is stable, even while pressure is rising. And it must communicate honestly. Elite drivers can accept bad news. They can accept that an upgrade requires time. They can accept that a rival has produced a better car. What they struggle to accept is uncertainty presented as certainty. If Red Bull says the weakness is solved, and Spa proves otherwise, trust suffers. If the team says progress is coming, but the same problems return, trust suffers. If Verstappen feels that his feedback is being heard but not translated into action, trust suffers. That is why communication inside the team matters as much as performance outside it. The public will hear short interviews. The real decisions happen behind closed doors. Inside engineering meetings. During post-session analysis. In conversations about development priorities. In discussions about what the car needs next. That is where Verstappen will decide whether he remains central to the project or whether the project is beginning to move without a clear answer. And Red Bull cannot afford ambiguity. Verstappen is not simply filling one seat. He is the reference point around which the entire competitive structure has been built. His feedback shapes the car. His performance changes strategy. His presence influences sponsors, engineers, and future recruitment. Losing him would not only remove a driver. It would remove the center of gravity from the team. Red Bull would need to rebuild more than a lineup. It would need to rebuild belief. That is why the reported contract demand carries so much power. The number may be exaggerated. The conditions may be incomplete. But the message underneath is unmistakable. Verstappen understands his importance. And he expects Red Bull to prove that it understands the cost of losing him. The team cannot rely on past championships. History creates loyalty. It does not create guaranteed patience. Formula One moves too quickly. A team can dominate one era and struggle in the next. A driver can spend years building success, then discover that the future has shifted elsewhere. Verstappen will not judge Red Bull only by what it gave him before. He will judge what it can give him next. That is the real warning. Show me the future. Show me the car is improving. Show me the organization is stable. Show me that staying is still the strongest decision. Spa becomes the first stage of that proof. A strong weekend would not end the rumors. But it could change their emotional weight. Verstappen would feel progress. The engineers would gain confidence. Red Bull could point to a direction that works. and rival teams would see that the door may not be as open as they hoped. A weak weekend would have the opposite effect. Every difficult comment would be examined. Every rumor would return. Every suggestion of an exit would sound more believable. And other teams would begin planning for a possibility that once seemed impossible. That is how one warning spreads across the grid. Drivers begin asking about their own positions. Team principals begin considering future lineups. Sponsors begin calculating the value of a potential move. Engineers begin wondering where the strongest project will exist. One driver's uncertainty can change decisions far beyond one garage. That is the influence Verstappen carries. But Red Bull must be careful. The team cannot appear desperate to keep him. Desperation would give every rumor more power. It cannot promise immediate dominance. That promise would be impossible to guarantee. It cannot abandon its long-term technical direction every time pressure rises. That would make the car even less coherent. Red Bull needs to prove commitment without surrendering control. And Verstappen needs to decide whether that proof is enough. That is the tension before Spa. Red Bull wants continuity. Verstappen wants certainty. A contract can provide continuity. Only performance can provide certainty. And performance cannot be negotiated in an office. It has to be earned on the circuit. That is why the fiercest part of Verstappen's warning may never appear in a quote. It exists in the standard he now expects Red Bull to meet. A clear car. A clear direction. A clear reason to stay. If Spa provides those answers, the pressure may begin to fall. But if Verstappen is forced to fight another unstable weekend, the warning changes. It stops being leverage. It stops being speculation. And it begins to feel like a countdown.